Thank you very much, Senator Fisher. So you talked about some of the employees and what you need now. I was noting that you have adapted your workforce over the year. For instance, this is kind of amazing, with the shift to digital publishing, you reduced from 6,000 employees in 1980 to 1,600 currently. So can you talk about the areas where you see change now, where you may add some people, given your success with the $1 billion in revenue and the increasing demands on the digital system?
Well, absolutely. So we are there's a number of areas where we're hiring. The biggest area where we've been hiring is in our high-tech manufacturing process for the U.S. passport and for secure identity documents. So while the passport's our biggest single product, we do other secure documents as well. So for instance, if you have global entry, you have a card that goes along with that. We manufacture those cards for our DHS customer. And that's just one example. We do law enforcement credentials. We do a whole host of those things. So we've been hiring a lot of folks to support that operation, to the point where we actually created a whole new role, a production technician. We worked with our unions to create this position where we could take folks who had some aptitude for working in a manufacturing environment and provide a 3-year on-the-job training program for them. We're also hiring on the digital side as well. So both for development of GovInfo, our trusted digital repository, but also for the software stack that we maintain for Congress and for some of our other customers as well. So we're hiring IT specialists and developers and programmers to support the software transition that we're going through right now. So if you go to Senate Leg Counsel and have them draft a bill, when they hit Control-P to print that document for you, GPO's software takes over. The piece of software that they use today first went into service when I was 12. It's been a long time since I've been 12. So we're replacing that with our new composition engine called XPub that will provide a whole host of additional capabilities both for our users and for the public. It'll provide information in new ways. So we need folks to support that. And some of the folks in the recent grad program are supporting that as well. And we're hiring a host of folks in those areas. And we'll need folks who have some skills in AI and other things as we look to leverage some of the newer technologies to automate our processes to make up for the fact that we're going to be losing some folks over the next couple of years.
Yep. We talked about these congressionally mandated reports, and you talked about over 100 that are already up. What steps will you take to make the public aware of this resource once it becomes available online?
So we do a lot of outreach with both as an agency across our social media channels and other channels like that. But actually, one of our greatest advocates is the library community. So we are working very closely with them to make sure that they are talking to their patrons, whether they're in your average public library, if they're at a university or a law school, so that they're letting their patrons know that these documents are out there. Mm-hmm. And as I talk with folks both in the library community, the sort of civil society groups, we do a lot of outreach to make sure that folks know about the resources that GPO brings to bear in making government information available to the public.
Mm-hmm. Very good. You mentioned artificial intelligence. We know that it's developing quickly. We've had a series of bipartisan meetings here to set up a framework for the United States putting forward. our own rules of the road, and including some that are under the jurisdiction of this committee involving democracy. Of course, this is going to affect GPO. In October, GPO released a directive to establish policies of the use of AI at the agency. Can you talk briefly on efforts to address the risk and the opportunities, especially in your area, that come with the use of AI?
Absolutely. So our directive sets up a framework and sets up a way of approaching the opportunities presented by artificial intelligence or large language models. To date, we still haven't found technology that is sufficient to replace some of our really talented teammates in the work that they do. So, one obvious area is proofreading. It's basic, at its most basic level, that's pattern matching is what it is. But again, today's technologies aren't ready to even supplement one of our talented proofreaders. So the way we are approaching these problems is how do we build the foundations so that when these technologies may be ready, so whether that's in 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, we can be in a position to take advantage of them so that we can free up our really talented human beings out of doing the scut work to make sure that there's the right number of digits in a dollar figure, and they're instead making sure that the overall look and feel of the document matches the style and do the kinds of things that human beings can do.
Mm-hmm. Very good. You talked about a bit about contracts. GPO manages a large amount of contracts, with over 80% of its printing performed by private sector vendors who are awarded contracts on a competitive basis. In its top management challenges report issued earlier this year, the GPO Inspector General recommended the need for a systemic approach as the agency continues to prevent contract fraud. What steps are you taking to ensure the contracting process is managed efficiently?
So we are working very closely with our IG to make sure that our process is free from fraud, and when our teammates find things that they suspect might be issues, we actively encourage them to refer them over to the IG for further investigation. We run basically two different sets of contracts. So one is the set of contracts that we use to buy the materials that we need for our own production needs. And the other is the contracting we do on behalf of other customers, whether it's Congress, the judiciary, or the executive branch. And really the key there is two things. It's education, making sure that the folks doing the contracting know what to look for. And the other thing is experience, because the more of these you do, the more you look at, the more you know where there are problems. And again, that's the kind of thing where relying on well-trained human beings is really kind of critical. So we think we're making good progress on that front. I talk with our IG at least weekly, and we're looking forward to continuing our record on that front.
Okay. I know Senator Capito is on her way, so I'm not filibustering, but sort of. Okay, well, as she sits down, one last question. GPO's headquarters in Washington, D.C. has been in the same location since it opened its doors, and like any historic buildings, requires regular maintenance and repairs. Can you speak briefly on the efforts GPO is taking to ensure its facilities remain a safe place to work, including your plans to implement the IG's safety recommendations?
Absolutely. So the IG identified a number, in their recent report on our top 10 safety issues, they had a number of recommendations, all of which we are in the process of implementing. One we've issued a new directive on, and the other two we are working through. GPO's building is old. The main building was built in the that we're occupying now. There's actually a cluster of 3 buildings, all built in the 1930s, and they are showing their age. The good news is they've got good bones. We have a facilities team that is looking at the needs of the building, prioritizing both what we need to do for expansion and what we need to do for safety. So for instance, we are well down the road of replacing the fire safety systems in the building. One area that we're going to need to look at in the coming years are replacing our elevators, which is an expensive proposition. But all of these things are being factored into a larger facilities management plan, and our plan is to make sure that we are in a position to keep our workplace as safe as possible.
Okay, very good. Senator Capito has joined us. Just for the new recruits out there, there's a number of people in their program. There are male senators. They just aren't here today. It's just us. Senator Capito.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks to the ranking member, and thanks to Mr.